Welcome back to Miniature Game Montage and our third bolt action battle report. I was so impressed with the amount of feedback from our last report that we couldn't wait to do another. I really enjoyed the system, and we're going to continue to expand our forces and game knowledge. Today, the Germans launch an assault on the US in the scenario Surrounded. We're playing at 700 points today, and the German forces will be led by a veteran second lieutenant with an extra man. The first regular Heer Grenadier squad will consist of 4 rifles, 2 assault rifles, 1 light machine gun, and an NCO with a submachine gun. They do have a Panzerfaust in the group. The second Heer Grenadier squad is regular, and they will have 4 rifles, 2 assault rifles, an LMG, and an NCO with a submachine gun. They will be backed up by a regular Panzer IV and a regular SDKFZ 251 half-track. With the options taken, that gets them to 700 points on the nose. Over for the Americans, we're looking at a veteran second lieutenant with 1 extra man. The first veteran infantry squad is at full strength with 9 rifles, 2 BARs, and an NCO with a rifle. The second veteran squad is the same. They will be backed up by a regular 57mm anti-tank gun and a regular M4A1 Sherman 75 for a total of 698 points. As always, please let us know of any corrections or rules we missed in the comments below. We are still learning. Be sure to leave us a like if you enjoy it and if you would like to see more. The mission today is Surrounded. The Americans will be able to set up half their units, rounding down, within 12 inches of the center of the board. The rest will be in reserves. The Germans will nominate half of their units to be the first wave of attack. The rest are left in reserve for them. The objective is simple. Both sides must attempt to destroy the other while attempting to preserve their own forces. A preparatory bombardment will go out on American positions, and the infantry unit will take 2 pins, and the second lieutenant will take 1. And with that, we're ready for turn 1. First die out of the bag belongs to the Germans, and they have to bring their first units in for the first wave. The Panzer IV comes onto the battlefield, targets the infantry units, and fires out with their machine guns. We'll need 6s followed by 6s. So 6 shots from the hull-mounted machine gun, 6 shots from the coaxial. 3 hits will go through, but we're going to need to re-roll these out again looking for 6s. The infantry unit is hidden, so they are getting a massive bonus, and it looks like nothing's going to happen here. The second dice out of the bag will belong to the Germans again, and the Hanomag comes onto the field. He's going to take a shot, an HE shot, with his main cannon, and he will also need 6s followed by 6s. He's going to miss that shot. The infantry squad is going to activate next. They're going to attempt to rally, pass an order test, and remove their 2 pins. And then the Germans issue a run order to the 1st Heer Grenadier Infantry Squad, and they move on to the board as well. Next up, the Americans are going to take another order test here from the second lieutenant, easily going to pass and removing his pin marker with a rally, and the rest of the units are down as they are in reserve. And that brings us to the end of a very quick turn 1. And the rest of the game should be a lot more interesting, as either side can enter from a board edge where their opponent did not enter from last. So turn 2 coming up. And the Americans pull the first die and come on from their own table edge to prevent the Germans from coming in behind them. They bring on an infantry squad, and the infantry squad is going to take aim at the Grenadiers. 9 rifles, 2 BARs will be firing. Long range and getting some light cover, they will need 5s to hit. The BARs will be in blue, and they will get a total of 7 hits here. Not bad. They will need 4s to take out stands, and it looks like they're going to take out 2. We do roll up a 6 for excessive damage, and it is not good. The Panzer IV activates next as the Germans pull the next die, advances up, and then points the machine guns at the US infantry. 12 shots will roll off, and it will need 6s. They are short range, but behind heavy cover, and they did move. So 6s are needed, and only 3 hits go through on 12 dice. So rolling out to wound, and it looks like one will be cut down. They'll take a pin. The Americans have the next die out of the bag, and they bring on the 57mm just with an advance. I don't think he can shoot, so we left it at that. Germans pull another die. The Grenadier squad will easily pass their order test. They will remove the pin that was put on them from the U.S. infantry and execute a run order. And as a quick note, they are moving around the wall, not over it. The Germans will then pull another die, and they will pass an order test to bring on their infantry squad. They will execute a run order and move up behind the Panzer IV. And then the Americans will pull a die, attempt to bring on the Sherman, and they fail the order test. So he was attempting to come in on the flank, and it's no good. Next up, the Hanomag is going to move up with an advance, and then he is going to attempt to fire an HE shot at the American infantry. This is going to be tough to hit, however, and it is going to miss. Next up, the infantry is going to pass an order test on this 8. They are getting the buff from the second lieutenant, and they are taking a -4 Tiger Fear, but they are successfully going to pass, and they're going to execute a run order to get out of line of sight from all of the hell that's coming at them from all directions. Next up, the Americans pull another die, and the second lieutenant will pass an order test. They will also execute a run order, taking into account the Tiger Fear from the Panzer IV. And the Germans pull another die, order test is taken, and the second lieutenant for the Germans will come onto the board, executing a run order, and they are moving up to the road. And that brings us to the end of turn 2. All units are on the board, except for the U.S. Sherman. There were 2 casualties taken for the Germans, 1 casualty taken for the Americans, and both sides playing a little bit of cat and mouse here, trying to get into better positions. The Americans draw the first die, and the 57mm eyes down the Panzer IV tank, needing a straight 3 to hit from the main cannon, and they will get a hit, and it needs a 4 to actually penetrate the tank's armor, and they get that as well. So we're going to roll for damage here, and it is going to be a 6, but the damage is superficial, so we're going to back 3 out of this, and the Panzer IV is going to catch on fire. The crew frantically trying to put it out. They are going to take an order test to see if they can put it out, and they do. We are then going to roll for a turret jam, and that is not successful, so everything is still operational. The tank takes 2 pin markers and a down action. And because it's a fresh turn, no reserves have come in from the Germans' deployment side. The Sherman rolls up and passes an order test. It comes in with an advance order, and it's going to target the Hanomag in the rear, and it's going to need a 4 to connect here with the 75mm main cannon. And it will get a connection. And since it's in the rear arc, this is immediately going to be superficial damage on this 4, and this thing is going to roll up a 6 on the damage chart, and that's going to be an explosion. So this will give the Americans a victory point, and they are on the board first, 1-0. Next die out of the bag belongs to the Germans. The Grenadiers are going to advance behind the wall, and they're going to bring their guns to bear against the 57mm cannon. And first we're going to see the rifles and the assault rifles fire out. I believe there's 4 rifles, 2 assault rifles, and the assault rifles will be in blue. They are long range, so they will need 4s to connect. And those dice roll out. We only see 4 dice that go through with a hit. And then we're going to roll those out, needing a 5, I believe, for gun shield. And this is a new unit for us, so hopefully getting this rule correct. And looks like no damage, so that's going to be a pin on them. The machine gun then fires out. He is short range, so needing 3s. There's no cover here. And then again, needing 5s. Nothing happening here. Next die out of the bag belongs to the Americans, and they play in advance. And they're going to position themselves to where 7 of the 9 rifles and the 2 BARs will be able to be in range of the second lieutenant of the Germans. So they're going to take shots here. They are a small team, and they are long range, so they will need 5s to hit. The Germans will go down, so it will need 6s followed by 6s. and there's going to be no damage there, no pen markers. Next up, the second lieutenant for the Americans is going to advance, and he's moving into the woods just to take advantage of cover. The next die out of the bag belongs to the Americans as well, and the infantry unit is going to move into the woods as well. Next up, the Germans are going to use their 2nd Infantry Squad to play an advance up behind the stone wall here, and they're going to target that 57mm cannon as well, trying to pin it heavily and limit the damage that it could potentially do to the Panzer IV. One acting as the loader, I think we missed this last time. 3 rifles fire out in orange, 2 assault rifles fire out in blue. The orange will need 5s, and the assault rifles will need 4, so there's no penalty to move. So these shots are going to go out, and all the rifles missed, but 3 shots will connect from the assault rifle, and then needing 5s to do damage, 1 is killed. Then the machine gun fires out, and it gets 5 dice. We'll need 5s due to long range and moving. Looks like 2 hits will go through, and then needing 5s again, 2 damage. So that gun is going to be taken off the table, which ties our score at 1 as turn 3 comes to a close. Turn 4 underway, the Americans pull the first die, and they will play an advance on the infantry squad. They will move up and target the German 2nd lieutenant, who is going to go down, making them harder to hit. So you're going to see 9 rifles and 4 BAR shots line up here, needing 6s followed by 6s due to them being a small team, long range, and then they've went down. So rolling those out now, looking for 6s, and we're going to see 2 out of all of these dice that have been rolled. And we're going to need to roll these again, looking for 6s again in order to just get a hit. And there will be a 6, so they will take a pen marker, and we're going to roll for damage here to see if he can make a kill, and it's no good. Next up, we're going to see an order test from the Panzer IV. It is going to pass. It does have 2 pen markers on it, and it is going to pivot and move with an advance order, and then rotate the gun to face the infantry advancing up the flank. 6 machine gun shots will shoot out, and we are looking for 6s here, followed by 6s, as they do have a pin marker on the tank, and they are in heavy cover more than half the squad, so that is going to miss. The Sherman activates next. He plays an advance, moving around behind the German forces, and then the next die belongs to the Americans. We're going to see the 2nd lieutenant play an advance here as they work their way out of the woods. The next die also belongs to the Americans, and they're going to play an advance just to get the rifles in line of sight of the Grenadiers. And they are going to rip shots. 8 rifles, 2 BARs will fire out, and they are looking at the Germans across the way. 3s, base, long range 4, and then heavy cover. They need 6s. And we're going to see 2 go through here. And then rolling to damage, that's going to be 2 damage. So needing 4s to damage, 2 will be brought down. And then they're going to activate next, play an order test, and fail. So they are going to go down after all. Next up, the German player will play a run move here with the other infantry squad, moving them behind the wall. And that will bring turn 4 to a close. So in this game, as being surrounded, the Americans are the ones that are supposed to be surrounded, but it looks like the Germans have pushed forward, and they are the ones that are actually getting pincered at this point. So maybe misplayed the way that reserves come in. Not really sure how we got in the predicament that we're in, but the Americans do feel like that they're getting the best of it. In turn 5, the Americans get the jump again. The Sherman tank pulls up and then targets the infantry squad. Will need 6s because he moved. It is short range, but they do go down, so 6s will be required to hit lots of machine guns on this thing firing out. 1 from the coaxial, 1 from the hull, and 1 from the pintle. So a lot of shots going out. Only 2 hits are going through, and then needing 4s to damage, nothing happening, so they just take a pen. Next up, the Panzer IV is going to pass an order check here. He's going to remove his last pen marker, and then he is going to play an advance. He is going to pivot, and move forward, and then he's going to rotate the turret to face that Sherman tank. And he does have him in the open here, does have him in the side. It will still be 4s to hit. And that 6 is good. Pin value gets increased by 1. This 3 goes to a 4. It's already a 6. That's a 10. Tank's armor's 9. So we roll out on damage, and it's going to be immobilized. 2 pins go on the Sherman, and the turret also jams. German infantry activate next and fire at the U.S. infantry. There will be 1 rifle. 1 will be loading. 2 assault rifles. They need 5s, long range, and soft cover. 3 hits will go through, so they will take a pin marker. And then needing 5s to kill, there's going to be 1 5 in this bunch. We do roll for the excessive damage. It does not happen. The LMG fires out, and he hits on 4s. 3 more hits will go through. And then, again, 5s needed to kill. 2 more will go through, and no excessive damage. The next die goes to the U.S. infantry, and they will continue to advance up the right flank and look to take shots at the German second lieutenant, who will go down. So first up, we're going to have the short-range shots, and the BARs will be in blue. The rifles at short range will be in orange. They will need 6s to hit here. It is a small team, and of course they went down, so 6s are required. There are 2 hits that go through, and needing 5s to kill, nothing happening on the damage. Next up, the long-range rifles are going to shoot, and they need 6s followed by 6s. The blue dice here represent the SMG that's firing at long range, and no damage here either. Americans pull another die. The infantry squad activates. They pass an order test to remove their single pin marker. The rifles will fire out first at long range. They will need 6s due to cover and range. The shots are going to miss. The BARs fire out next at short range. They need 5s. They will connect on 3 of these, but they do need 4s to kill, and they get no damage. So a pin going on that German unit. Americans pull another die, and the second lieutenant is going to play an advance. Also going to bring their rifles to target that German infantry squad, and they're both going to miss as well. And that brings us to the end of turn 5. So the score tied at 1. There's still a lot that could happen depending on who draws the first order die going into turn 6, which can potentially be the last turn of the game. We could see a 7, but it's all going to be dependent on a dice roll. Turn 6 getting ready to come up. The Germans pull the first order die out of the bag, and the Panzer IV will target the Sherman again in the side with a straight fire order, so 3s are needed, and that's exactly what he gets. So rolling up to see if it penetrates, and there's a 5. The answer is absolutely it does. And we're going to go ahead and roll up on the damage table, and it's a 6. That Sherman 75 is blown sky high. That takes the score 2-1 Germans. As we go back to the dice bag, order test being taken here as they pull another die out. And the second lieutenant, they're going to pass here, and he's going to issue a run order as they're getting around behind the building. And this is just for protection so they can preserve their forces. The next die out is also German, and they're just going to take a down order here. The Americans pull a die next, and the second lieutenant is going to issue a fire order into the Grenadiers. They are long range and heavy cover, so 6s are required, no hits. The Germans pull another die, and they just issue a down order to this infantry, everybody keeping their heads low. And next up, the Americans pull out a die, and the Americans are going to attempt to assault the Panzer IV. Now, Tank Fear and Tiger Fear give them a -4 modifier. They fail this initiative test, but they are full strength. They get to re-roll, and they get a 6. That is exactly what they need to make it into contact. And with a bellowing cry, the men charge into the Panzer IV, needing 4s to hit. They're going to get 12 swings here, so hoping to do some damage. And those dice are rolling out, needing 4s, and unfortunately only 4 are going to hit. That means they're going to need a 5 on a d6 to do any kind of damage to this vehicle, and that's exactly what they get. So superficial damage has been done to the vehicle, and rolling out a d6 and subtracting 3 from that, it's just going to be a crew stunned here. So there is no turret jam, the crew's operating as normal, and a consolidation move is made by the infantry as they hit the dirt. Next die out of the bag is the Americans. They pull the infantry are going to move with an advance order. They're going to attempt to push the Germans off of this wall position that they have. And since they're down, it's going to be sixes followed by sixes. The rifles and the BARs will fire first. Again, needing sixes followed by sixes. They're only going to get one here with a BAR shot, and that unfortunately is not going to convert. Then we're going to see the SMG fire out as well. Also needs sixes followed by sixes. He will actually get a 6 here, but again, rolling that back out, it does not convert. And that brings us to the end of turn 6. So the Germans are on top 2-1 here as the Sherman has exploded. And we have to see what happens if we're going to get a turn 7. Very crucial roll coming up here. If the Americans go first, they could potentially assault again, tying this game up. It all depends on the dice. So do we see a turn 7 in this match? The answer is no. The game is over, and what a game it was. And that brings us to the end of another bolt action battle report. In reading the scenario objectives, if you don't win by 2, it is a draw, and that's exactly what we saw today, as the Germans were up 2-1. It doesn't appear either side caused enough casualties to take the win. That can be attributed to not being as aggressive as maybe we should have been. I rolled up for the Americans today, and I definitely should have pushed my infantry up further, but I didn't want to risk getting caught in the open field. My son rolled up for the Germans, and while I thought I had him with my Sherman, when he came onto the back of the board, he made a good move with his Panzer IV to take out my Sherman. I'm not sure what would have happened if we would have went to turn 7. I thought at minimum I could tie the game, but he thought if he pulled the first die or two, he could win it. We had a lot of fun playing this scenario and creating this report. If you have any suggestions, don't hesitate to let us know in the comments below. We are looking to grow our forces and terrain with bolt action, and we greatly appreciate your support. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.